Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Hopefully you can hear me and my crooky voice okay. Dan, you can hear me okay there?
Yeah, good to go, mate. Yep.
Awesome, mate. So there's quite a lot of people on today, so really appreciate you guys joining. And we're going to be going through obviously the cost tracking feature. So it's one of those features that's been highly requested. But hopefully Dan isn't a stranger to anyone. But Dan, do you want to introduce yourself just in case you are?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Julian. So I'm one of the partners and head of CFO advisory over here at Xact Accounting. The quick spiel on us: we're a building and construction specialist firm, and all we chase are builders. So we have a deep specialism in that space. But that's the short version. Thanks, Julian.
Awesome, mate. But if you guys have seen our webinars before, you know that we've done a lot of work with Xact Accounting in the past. I'm not sure what's happened to my voice there as just I've started talking, but we'll continue and go ahead. So I'm the senior partner manager here at Buildxact, so I look after everyone that works with builders pretty much outside of our supplier partners. So the cost tracking dashboard has been a really highly requested feature just to give people more information on how their projects are tracking. So that's now released. If you haven't seen it already in Australia, it's going to be coming soon in North America and New Zealand. Just waiting for some final pieces around content and videos and things like that. So that won't be too far off. But this just kind of get it for those of you that joined that are in those markets that don't have access to that. This just kind of gives you a bit of an idea of how it currently works, and you guys will be getting that very soon. So Dan is going to give us, I think, a little bit of an overview about why this is important and kind of the things you should be doing to make sure it is important in your business. And then we're going to jump into Buildxact and then kind of go through it and give a bit of a quick once over on how it all works and some of the behavior that you need to be changing if you're currently doing things in a different way, on how to get the most out of this new feature. It's not going to be for everyone straight off the bat because there's a little bit of work that goes into it, and Dan will kind of go through that. But we'll eventually get people slowly changing the way that they start to estimate and track their costs with invoicing and things like that. And a lot of that will come across with the two-way zero integration that will be coming as well. So Dan, I might leave it over to you if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. Look, everyone, thanks for making a bit of time to, I guess, carve out and come and see us this morning at the webinar. I mean, this product we've been working on for about, I guess, about a year and a half as well. And look, obviously, there's been a pretty strong partnership between us and Buildxact. So this will be our first premiere of it, which I'm really excited to take everyone through. So let me just share my screen and we'll get into it. I'll just gloss over these PowerPoints just to lens this a little bit first. And Julian, feel free to jump in. And guys, please
Yeah.
shoot through questions if you have it along the way. I mean, we've got an hour here, but I'll try and push through my section. If you have any technical questions, please launch them through. So the story so far, I mean, the building industry has been obviously up and down. I don't really want to sort of talk too much about that, but as far as the individual goes, a lot of you online are really good at attracting customers, getting them on board, have multiple projects on the go. And particularly when you look upstream, you have something like Buildxact, I guess, in the background as well. So the takeoff and estimating process is getting far quicker, far faster, far more efficient. You're getting so many hours back into your day and week, which is amazing. You know, bias aside, you know, it's a truly amazing product. Now, what I am seeing out in the market is that it's sort of easier. I mean, everyone has their own journey, but it's easier to sort of bring on another project. Obviously, pricing escalations, you know, driving more revenue and margins getting more and more precarious. And then as you sort of go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 builds, you start entering this whirlwind mode, which is invoices fly everywhere, cash flies everywhere, pricing escalation goes up and down, delays and all the rest of it. So when you first engage with the client and you go, hey, come on board with us, sign them up and I guess push on, and then you sort of get the job out of the ground, stuff can get pretty messy pretty quickly. And I sort of find builders are really good upstream with the quoting and estimating side and amazing at it. And then as you sort of go further downstream, you're going, well, how much money am I making out of this job? It's getting harder and harder to answer at the time, which has sort of created this opportunity for this dashboard and I guess this partnership to roll out, which we're excited to release. So particularly in our arsenal, we I guess on the CFO advisory side, we talk about this well-oiled machine, which starts with estimating, goes to bookkeeping, good hygiene and practices, commercial readiness, and we're going to touch on reporting today, which is this dashboard. And then out of that reporting platform, what do you do? What are the calls to actions? And I guess how do you sort of improve the margin, defend the margin, or I guess ultimately make a little bit of money. So I wouldn't mind just lensing this a little bit as well, because if you haven't sort of seen me around the traps, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant or anything, you probably haven't bumped into I guess an accountant like me. So typically your tax accountant will sort of talk about, this is the money you've made. You're going to have the conversation with them in May for the previous year. They go, right, buy this year, do this, do that. Here's your tax bill, and away you go. My world is all around, I guess, being a commercial accountant, which is margin, profit, how much money am I making? You shouldn't have to wait until the end of the bill to answer that question. You should be able to see that month to month as well. And you get that by having a good estimating process, good bookkeeping practices, getting your data commercially ready, which is pushing in work in progress and a few other bits and pieces. And then the reward out of that is really, really beautiful reporting. And you should be able to have a look at any of your jobs and go, yep, out of that $100,000 profit I'm hoping to make, you should be able to get that almost daily, assuming your bookkeeping practices are right and your estimating practices are right, which will then sort of dovetail into the dashboard section. The other pieces to mention too, this has been about a year and a half in production, and we have a pretty strong partnership with Buildxact on this. This dashboard piece is a pretty small part of what I do in advisory, and we'll bring up some QR codes at the end as well. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of celebrate, I guess, the time and investment from Buildxact too into us, and obviously vice versa as well. So I appreciate the time, effort, and support, Julian and co.
Thanks, mate. Same.
So just a couple of really, really, really important, I guess, pieces of housekeeping. So this is hot off the press. So we've only just released this. This went live on Friday, I think it was, Julian. So, yeah, I think so, yeah. We are super, super keen for feedback. I mean, this is only sort of cut one, and I guess iteration one. So feel free to push heaps of feedback, back to Buildxact and us, because obviously we're pretty keen to make this work, and obviously hopefully try and leverage your business further as far as financial clarity goes. The other piece is that given it is a bit of tech, it is going to take a bit of effort and energy to get your data right. So if you haven't got ownership of your bookkeeping, having good data and pushing invoices through Buildxact and all the rest of it, it's the same old thing, rubbish in equals rubbish out. So, I mean, for a large chunk of you, it'll be a pretty steep sort of pivot and change to get the most out of the dashboard. But to be absolutely honest, like if you were coming into my division and CFO and we're trying to talk margins and all the rest of it, honestly, it's a non-negotiable. And if you do want to get there, don't be afraid to reach out to Buildxact or us. We're definitely here to help. And it's the beautiful part about this is that it's not rocket science. There's plenty of other businesses that do it well and effectively. There's no reason why you can't do the same. And the reward's tremendous. You won't be flying in the dark. Helps you sleep better at night. All that fun stuff. So I'll launch in, Julian, if that's all right.
Yeah. So I think what I want to just go over before we get too deep into it, Dan, is just to kind of give you the before and after what we currently had and we've got now. So what Buildxact used to show you is I've budgeted 10 grand for a particular category, whether it's framing or tiling or whatever it is. I've budgeted 10 grand. I've spent 8 grand of it. Buildxact used to show you in the green, which is good. I'm under budget technically, but I've actually only done 30 or 40% of the work. Now, that would tell you that I'm actually going to be in the red very soon. It just doesn't show me in the red right now. So that's the problem really that kind of ultimately that we're trying to solve. We're trying to give you more visibility on what's yet to come and how that impacts what your profit on the project and where you're likely to end up at that point. So that's kind of, there's a lot more into it, but that's one of the big things that we didn't really do amazingly well. But we still for a lot of people it was still enough. Like we're in a position where a lot of our customers are smaller builders and who don't do anything at the moment. So when they come on to us, this is enough for some people. But we did get calls, especially as people start using it, going, oh, this is great. And then they get more experience, they want more and they want more and they want more. We're getting a lot more requests for these features. So that's some bit of background as to why. What I would like to do, because this is going to be quite a bit of an in-depth, like if you haven't used Buildxact before, this might just look a little bit of information overload. So just a bit of a heads up that it is more of an advanced conversation around Buildxact than what we would probably do in a normal demo. But I do have a poll here. If you guys can, greatly appreciate it. If you can just pop in whether you're actually currently using Buildxact in your business. You might not be using it yourself, but just if your business is actually using it, just so we've got an idea of roughly, I'm guessing it's going to be most people on here are going to be using Buildxact. And yeah, I can see the numbers already. It's It's about 90. You're better at maths than me, but about 95%, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, good numbers.
Cool. Awesome, guys. That's greatly appreciated. So I think we just got a few more people coming up before I'll end that poll. Cool. I think that's everyone. Yeah, really appreciate it, guys. Thank you. So yeah, that's most of the people on there by far using Buildxact. So I'm just going through the questions before we jump. Is there a move to have this reporting within each job screen? So Tim, we'll come to that as we go through it. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or feedback, just obviously keep in mind that this is the first release, and the way that software kind of development works is that you kind of release, I guess, a product or a feature that's going to work for most people, and then over time you gather feedback, and then you do future releases after that. So if you have any feedback, yeah, definitely reach out on the Buildxact Facebook page. That's the Buildxact building block. That's the best place to shoot messages in and things like that, or just reach out via the chat and contact us that way. But Dan, over to you, mate.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, Julian. Just to re-lens this a little bit further as well, and the reason why this sort of popped up. So in my world here, particularly in CFO advisory, I've already sort of touched on margins and I guess where are you heading? Is a project going over or under budget, whatever it happens to be? Because I sort of find that build is a really good upstream, build out these beautiful quotes that go on for lines and lines and lines and go on forever. The whirlwind starts and financial clarity drops. So what I do in CFO advisory is that say you have a bill for $600,000 charge to the client and it's $500,000 to build. Well, one minus the other is your profit. In which case, that's entirely my laneway. Is that you need to defend, retain, and measure yourself against how you're performing with that profit, and go, well, you need to keep that $100,000 under the microscope at all times. So with this dashboard here, and again, this is just a little subset of what we do is, can we reward the individual for having good data, good hygiene, leveraging Buildxact and going, well, if you actually invest the time, energy, and effort, and it's not the bookkeeper's responsibility or the better half, it's your responsibility as the owner or senior leader in your business, you should be able to get beautiful reporting that tells you how that $100,000 is going almost daily. Because in my world, for example, if you have 10 grand for a tiler to come in and do bathroom 2 on your site, and it comes in at 10 grand as far as the cost goes, I just couldn't care. But if it comes in at 12 grand and you sort of cooked 2 grand of that profit, that's where I'm going to put all my attention and go, why, what's happened, what's going on, out of scope. And you've gone, well, I'm no longer making $100,000 anymore. I'm now making 98. And as every sort of transaction comes in, you have this tug of war and this battle with defending that profit. That's where the philosophy of this dashboard came in, trying to sort of remove the back of the coaster and going, well, if you have good data, good hygiene, good processes, or just pretty simple big business thinking, there'll be some reward out of it. So I'll launch on in. Please, guys, definitely push through questions, chats. Again, it is cut one, and we're really keen to sort of refine this and sort of make this a bit more fit for purpose for a lot of you guys. But I'll jump into it anyway. So this is live. So this is the initial front screen. This is just a bit of a dummy company I've created myself in the background, obviously with Julian's help. So thank you, mate, and a shout out there. If you come across the report section, this is where all the fun starts, essentially. So if you run top to bottom, there are essentially 3 components of this. One is a bit of a job overall summary, and I'll talk about the detail here in a second. There's a couple of walkthrough videos, which I'll try not to double up on myself on this, but there are some walkthrough videos that do talk about each of these individual chunks. This first section here is just the job by job summary for your individual jobs that you have on the go. You roll on a little bit further down, and this starts to get a bit more micro. So it gives you a bit of a high level job summary as to what's going on. And you can select each of your current jobs that you have actively on the go, and everything is dynamic. So I'll quickly update in the background, and it'll spit you out some more numbers as well, which is sort of really nice to see. And then as you come further down, this is the detail. So this is essentially your scoreboard as to how each of your jobs are going, what's going over, what's going under, what's cooking, and what's not. So I'll come a little bit further up to the top, and I'll just sort of go really slow, shoot through questions, guys. And Julian, if you see anything that's topical, grab me up and rip the handbrake there. Otherwise, I'll charge.
Yeah, Dan, there was a request to zoom in on your screen a tiny bit more. So
Yep.
Or even if you can full screen it, that might help. So we don't have all the stuff at the top.
Yeah.
I actually forget how to do that on a computer. I think it's like F11 or something, is it? I don't know, but F11.
F11. Thanks, mate. Sorry, guys. All right. Is that better?
Yeah, that's a bit clearer now. Yeah, you just might have to scroll across a little bit more and move the tables if it's move the columns if it's a bit too zoomed in. But
Yeah.
that's I think that'll be enough.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Again, there's walkthrough videos on this, guys. So in this first section here, this will list out all of your individual jobs that you have on the go, and you can do little drop downs up to the top here if you want to sort of filter on some or all or most or whatever it happens to be. And this here is your first scoreboard as to how each of your jobs are performing. So the beautiful part about all of this is that this just leverages straight off your data that you have in the job section in Buildxact. So the time, energy, and effort you go into building these jobs, the more you're going to get out of this screen of this page as well. So in this instance here, this builder has 3 current jobs on the go. These are all the job numbers that are hard keyed from the job section here. This plan gross profit. This section here is similar to that example I gave before, is say you have a $600,000 charge to the client, $500,000 bill cost, one minus the other is your profit. So this is the profit that you're trying to defend in this build, and it comes from your original estimate. This is your plan. This is the money that you're trying to make on this. Now, with all these keystrokes that go in there, and this data is live, so if you enter an invoice in the next 10 minutes into your system, this should update, assuming you got the right hygiene processes in place, particularly around the bookkeeping and the job entering side. But in this instance here, in that example I gave before with the bathroom tiler going sort of $2,000 over, these jobs here are starting to cook. So in this instance here, we're planning to make $161,000 out of this job. We're actually overspending at the moment by $2,000. So this isn't a cost to date or anything. This is where you're missing off your original plan. And this is probably the most important number to have in your business by job, because if you're starting to go over as far as, either overspending or you've had scope creep or whatever it happens to be, me and CFO advise you, I couldn't care about the ones that are on track or, outperforming. That's where I'm going to spend all my time and go, we're losing money here. What's the call to action to call this back? So I'm starting to sort of indicate how to sort of practically use this information as well. And when you do load the data in here for the first time, it will be messy, absolutely, because you might not have used Buildxact in the way you need to. But I would strongly encourage you to sort of start entering your invoices line by line, category by category in there. And there's heaps of help videos on it to try and get this data, really accurate. Because if you are cooking on a job or sort of running over on a job, you want to know about that now, not guess 12 months to the end of the project, wait another 2 months, go, I've given away half my profit. If you have this clarity now, there could be some pretty strong call to actions that come out of it. So with the projected gross profit, it's simply the planned gross profit you're hoping to make. This is what you're sort of winning or losing on the scoreboard. And if you are gaining profit along the way, say that Tyler comes back and does bathroom 1, and it's $10,000, it comes in at 8, well, your profit's gone up by $2,000. So this column here will actually aggregate up all those individual items and tell you exactly how you're performing. And it's definitely the most important number here in this dashboard.
Yeah, so that's why, Dan, just to cut in there, that's why we were talking about kind of how you enter your data in, and the better you are with entering your data in, the more accurate this is going to be. And kind of what Dan mentioned there is the more information you've got on how the project's performing, the better business decisions you can actually make. I mean, just sorry to cut you off there from earlier, mate, but I was in a and I've said this before on a webinar. I was at a Master Builders event. I believe it was in Liverpool in New South Wales, and I was sitting next to a guy, and he said that he signed up to use Buildxact, and he said that he wasn't going to. He said the reason he did it was because his friends, one of his friends, did 2 projects and lost money on them, but he didn't know that he lost money on them until a few months later. And then he realized when all his invoices were starting to come out that he actually was completely in the red and basically went under because of it. So that's kind of a real example of why it's important to do these things as you're going, and obviously this makes it a little bit easier. Sorry, back to you, mate.
No, it's a really good story, Julian, and definitely poll these on as we go. But I mean, how can you sort of roll out learnings and systemization, and you might have underquoted, I don't know, linear meters on the timber or something, whatever it is. But if you can pick that up sooner rather than waiting 12 months, and if you are quoting 2 other jobs on the go, you can apply that learning quickly, especially if you've got 5 or 6 of these on the go. Like, that's a lot of people, a lot of projects, lots of layers of supervision and chippies and all the rest of it. It can get pretty messy. So the idea of this is again, we almost want this to be, I guess, information overload for the ultimate owners and the people that are accountable in your business, so you can see how the project's going, not wait 12 months and the bus has run over me. So in this instance here, I guess, particularly in this build up, 161,000 GP that opened to make 182, 120. This one here has been diabolical, as you can sort of see. When you come over to the right-hand side and go, well, what's the call to action out of this? Well, you can see that the costs have run over to date. So it looks like this project is almost at the end. So I don't think there's too much you can do about this, but apply the learnings out of this and go, well, why have we run over here? This one here that is just starting to cook, you know, me as your CFO or you as a business owner want to go, well, how do we make sure that that trend doesn't continue? Because you're already starting to give away some of your margin here. Instead of making close to 25, you're edging down to the 24%. And similar position to this as well. We want to try and hit these percentages as best we can all the way through the job. Pushing on a little bit further down, I'm a big visual person. So this graph down the bottom here, this will obviously be bigger or smaller depending on what you select up here. If you do more volume homes, you're going to have a lot more of these sort of in between. But this gives you a quick visual representation as to how much money do I want to make. So 463,000 based on the jobs I've selected. This one here is bleeding a little bit, a lot more, and a lot. And this tells you where your profit or your projected profit is sitting right now. So the beautiful part about all this is that all this data is live. So assuming your data hygiene is good and all the rest of it, you have this at your fingertips, not having to wait till either at the end of the project or wait for your tax accountant to give you some numbers, or wait till 30 days after the end of the month if you're a bigger business and go, geez, I hope we're going all right on this. Because you can't wait up to 60 days to get this information or get your hands on this information as well. So again, just a quick visualization of the data above, but as you can see here, this builder's in a bit of pain, so there's a fair bit of work to do. Now, I'll spend a little bit more time on this because as you sort of go down to each section, it is designed to give you more and more information as you go top to bottom. So the purpose of this here is that you can select any of these individual jobs and this data will update really quickly. But in this top left-hand quadrant here, this is all about the job. So this is the original estimate of the job and the money you're hoping to make. So in this section here, this is the total project income, excluding GST or taxes or anything like that, because you guys don't get to keep GST. You good, Julian? Look like you're about to jump in, mate.
No.
Yeah. All right. No, all good. Any variations you're running along, I guess running at the time as well. So if you have a client requesting variations or stuff that's going out, this will all update and tell you exactly where the job is sitting as far as the planned income and the planned costs you're hoping to make on this as well. So this will push in any variation income that you have in there, and this gives you the total project income overall. So in this instance here, only $300, but it's just in there for demonstration purposes. So this project here is due to generate $649,000 in income for this builder for this job. The next section down the bottom, this comes straight off your cost estimate or I guess your job. So this is all the information that you guys are entering into Buildxact. So the builder here is hoping to spend $488,000. The variation costings have come in, so it's a no margin piece, as you can see, because it's $300 of income and $300 of cost. So the total cost to build this is $488,000. The planned gross profit is simply income minus cost. That's what you need to keep under the microscope under the build and make sure you're either hitting it or exceeding it, or they're hoping to make 24% in gross profit, so not markup, but GP.
Can you talk about the difference between that, Dan, if that's okay?
Yeah, it's a really important one, Julian. Thanks for putting me up on that.
I've just got to pull Dan up because Dan's an accountant and he looks at numbers more than words, and I don't understand any numbers, so I have to try and pull Dan up on slowing down and explaining some of these bits.
No, it's a good one, Julian, because I charge on to get a bit passionate about this stuff. So markup is simply cost plus a margin. So if you have a $100,000 build and you go plus 20%, that's going to be a $120,000 charge to the client, say if you're in the reno space. Whenever you talk to your accountant or business partner or banker or whatever happens to be, they're going to go, what's your overhead percent? What's your margin percent? What's your net profit percent? Whatever happens to be, whatever that line is. So say I want to know gross profit percent. It's revenue minus cost. That gives you your gross profit, and gross profit divided by revenue, that's your gross profit percent. So what that means is, I guess in layman's terms, is that for every dollar that pops into the business, you want to keep 24.8 cents of that all the way through. And that's a real simple way of going, that's my percentage GP. Or, your overheads might be running at 10%. And what that means is that for every dollar that pops in, you're spending 10 cents on overheads. So it's all just divide by revenue. Gross profit divided by revenue, that's your GP percent. Overheads divided by revenue, that's your overhead percent. So it's all about when that dollar trickles in, what's that chunk that's going to GP, or what's that chunk that's going to overheads, and what's that chunk that's going to your back profit, which is net profit. or to your back pocket, sorry. How's that, mate?
Awesome, mate.
All right, thank you. So this is what you're trying to defend and rate, I guess, retain throughout the build. So this is what you're hoping to make out of this. Over to the right-hand side is a bit of a micro cash flow as to what's going on. So again, this is all reliant on good data and hygiene in the background. But as you can see here, as far as cash in goes, they've invoiced 194,000 to the client only. So there's still 454,000 yet to bill out. So this is the total income that can go out to the client. They've billed out this, so there's still a bit of cash left in the tank, 454,000. So the total cash inflow for this project's this. So this actually has a bit of cash still yet to go out. The next piece here, which is the total cash outflow, is, well, what have we spent to date on this project? So you build out 194. You have here 26,000 that you have spent on the project. You've still got $464,000 yet to spend on it. But out of that $26,000 you spent, $2,000 of that is an overspend. So going back to that bathroom example before, you know, if the estimate was $10,000 for the tiler to come in and you've spent $12,000, that $2,000 appears here. So it isn't just going, oh geez, I hope I'm going to come under this number over here. You've spent 26, but of that, you're already 10% over budget. And when you're looking at your margin here, well, that's half of that already that you've given away based on what you spent to date. So some serious action has to happen, or at least in my book anyway, to give me evidence that you will retain and defend that along the way. And then when you go, well, what does the overall cash flow look like? We have, well, what has been invoiced to date, and then what have we got left to spend? It's actually a little bit cash flow backwards at this stage, which is fine. But what we're trying to do here is we go, well, we can see what's invoiced out. We know how much money we got left to spend here, sorry. What have we got yet to invoice? And this just gives you a really quick back of the envelope going, well, what's the cash on this project look like? So yet to invoice, yet to spend. Coming a little bit further into this section here now, so we've touched on, this is the estimate. This is a bit of a micro cash flow in your business, so you can sort of see what is going on. And then when we go, well, how is this project performing? So this project here is running over by $2,000, and this number here is exactly the same as the one up here. Exactly the same, but it gives you more of an exploded view as to what's going on. So the profit performance to date is a $2,000 overspend. You're giving away about 1.6% of your margin. So what your new gross profit is this is the money we're hoping to make, less what we're overspending or underspending. And then this is your new your projected gross profit based on the data that's in the system right now and where we think you will land for the project. But that number will change with every keystroke you enter into this job section here, particularly with invoices. And then this is your new GP. So just a reminder again, this is pretty portable, and it will give you all sorts of numbers here in the background so you can see what is going on. So if you do have one that is looking really diabolical, you can select this and it tells you what the cash flow is, what the overspend is. In this instance here, for example, and conversations I have with a lot of builders is, how do you know you're going to come over budget or under budget? Like, well, I just look at zero, I look at my op, and I go, well, the original estimate was 400. We spent 482. And I'll go, well, where's the bottom? How much more money is yet to come in? Because that is not good. Because even back at the envelope, you can see that really quickly. We're due to spend 421. We spend 482. And without this clarity, and I'm not trying to pump our tires here, but without this clarity, my next question is, well, you can see straight away you've torn up a lot of margin, 80 odd grand's worth. Where is the bottom? Oh, well, actually, it gets worse. We've still got another 40 grand to spend. And I'll get down to that bottom section shortly. So good, bad, or ugly, you can start to plan out and go, yep, this is underwater, but you can have pretty sophisticated conversations with your bank. Do you need to pull money out of the offset to get to the bottom of this instead of that clench and hope strategy, which just isn't fun for everyone. I touched on a few pretty quick and broad things in there, but I'm just trying to get the juices flowing with this, especially with the utility of this as well.
Yeah, there's some questions in there, Dan, but we'll try and leave the questions to the end, guys. But we'll go through and actually show how some of this stuff is calculated and stuff from your job screen, which some of that stuff will be in the little section below.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've got any issues with things not showing up or that kind of thing, it's very hard for us over a webinar to actually go through that. It's probably something we want to figure out on a one-on-one call. But if you're having any issues of things not showing correctly or anything like that, just go through the usual channels. So you can either email support@buildxact.com or go into that need help button in the top left-hand corner you can see in Dan's screen. And that'll open up a chat box, and you can raise a support ticket through the chat function. It's just really hard for us to actually figure out what the actual issues are. But I'd imagine for a lot of people, it's how you're tracking your costs, which we'll go through in a second.
Yeah, it's a good point, Joe. I mean, there's a lot of sensitive parameters in here that if you want this to be usable, that you have to get right upstream, which is it starts with the estimate, really strong bookkeeping, hygiene practices in the background, because again, rubbish in or average in, you're going to get pretty average out as well. So I imagine for a lot of you, this is going to be all over the place, depending on how well and effectively you use it. But the reward is that if you get the data right. I mean, some of these numbers in here, if I was in your guys' shoes, if I was swinging the hammer, yeah, geez, there's some pretty powerful information out of this. Sometimes you might not have had it before. So the reward is there. I strongly recommend you to lean into it and get your data right.
Yeah, Dan, can you open those out?
Yeah. I was just going to roll on to the next one. So this here's your summary, and I've just changed to a project that's running a little hot at the moment. So I guess so coming back a step, how do you use this information? Well, I'm seeing 14 grand in the red, Dan. What do I do? Well, to affect change and to call that back, you have to be able to measure it. And then if you come down into individual quote, this is where you start to measure and go, where are we cooking and where are we winning and losing on our scoreboard, especially by line item. So with this particular job here, J1005, again, this just sucks it straight out of your job and your quote section. So however you guys build up your quotes and estimates, it's just going to rip in exactly the same data here. So if you only sort of do 4 or 5 lines, you're only going to see 4 or 5 lines. But if you're really diligent and build it out line by line and you're really sophisticated, you'll get a lot of reward out of this process. So in this section here, this is the actual details section by category item that you will see in the job, and it will mirror it almost exactly on the job section here. And we can go down that path, Julian, later on if you want.
Yeah.
But in my world, what I care about particularly is this far right-hand column, because this here isn't, if you have a 20 grand pot and you've only spent 10 grand, one minus the other's 10 grand. That's where you do get in the job section in the main, I guess, the core Buildxact overall job section area, which is fine. This here is where you're winning and losing on a job overall. So I'll pop one of these out and I'll give you a bit of an example. So we've got actually a Queensland builder here in Australia, I guess, as a bit of an example.
Just to reiterate, Dan, sorry to keep on cutting you off, but
right.
This is exactly what will be in your estimate screen when you put dollar values and quantities against it. This comes into your job. So everything you're seeing here is how you estimate and how it comes into managing on your job. If you are, and we'll go into this bit, if you're just creating lines from an estimate that comes into your job and then you just bulk receiving costs into that category, this isn't going to show correctly, because what we're effectively needing to do is pull costs and invoices and POs into a specific line, because then we can compare, we thought we were going to spend X, we actually spent Y, and Z's the difference. So just to kind of get people's, because I know there probably are a few questions in there about that, how it pulls across. You have to be receiving costs, invoices, POs, etc., against a particular line. Now you can do multiple against the same line, but if you've got that behavior where you estimate a cost and you go, there's about 20 grand's worth of cost in that category, and I just go new invoice or new PO, whatever, and I just put it into that category and go, there's 5 grand there, 10 grand here, 5 grand here. This isn't going to work for you. So just so you've got that mentality of how this needs to actually calculate, that's how it is. So just want to jump in there, Dan, and make people aware of that.
Yeah, it's a good one, Julie. I mean, there's a lot of asterisks against this, because this is obviously well downstream of all your processes that you do. I guess upstream, which is estimating, quoting, jobs, invoices flying everywhere, integrations is zero, and then right at the end is this reporting piece. So there's a lot of things that have to go right, but you can absolutely get it right if you definitely put in the effort and energy into it. So under this piece around micro measuring your profit and defending that profit, we go, well, for QBCC home warranty insurance, the builder was estimating that they were going to spend $6,295. The actual invoice has been entered into Buildxact. So it's entered against the individual line item, it's synced through to zero, the invoice numbers in the job section. And from my world, well, it's come right in on budget. Personally, it's good to know, but there's no overspend or underspend. It's coming on budget, in which case, personally, I couldn't care to move on. The next section is Q leave, and this is just one little micro profit and loss calculation, but we estimate we're going to spend $3,100. It's coming to $3,200. We go, okay, well, we've overspent $90 here, so that's going to roll up into this number. Next section here, site safety plan, 500. is coming at 0. So the bit I care about is that whatever the estimate is, we want it to come under or better or right on it, which indicates, you know, good policies, processes, good supply management, all those sort of really good pieces, and I guess bits of hygiene I look for. But anything that's running over, it's only a small amount, but given that builders' margins aren't tremendous, I want to know where sort of every dollar and cent flies through that business overall. So we're already cooking $90 here out of this. In this yet to spend column, it goes, well, if there is no estimate, you've still got to spend the money one way or another, because then this is going to tell you how your cash flow is going for that. So given everything has been receipted in here, so if you are entering invoices into a job and you mark them as fully received, it'll then tag this as an actual calculation. So if it's fully received, it means that micro element of the job's done, the tiling's done or the cladding's done, and it'll actually do that calculation with the variance at the end. So as you can see here, there's nothing left to spend on these categories, which is good overall. So you can pop these down, drill these down and go, well, where are we winning and losing? Hire items, for example, same story. Some of these are coming right in on budget, in which case I couldn't care. You know, there's a skip bin charge here, so there might be heavy tip fees, whatever it happens to be. That's starting to run over. And then as you sort of come further and further down as well, you know, delivery and transport, et cetera, et cetera. And then this one here has been diabolical. So, you know, we originally thought we spent $8,000 on tools and bits. It's coming at 16. I want to go away and have a chat to my team and go, boy, what the hell's going on there? What have we missed in our estimate? You know, why? You know, good, bad, or ugly. Then you can apply that to the next round of estimating that you do. So as you can see here, as you sort of pop each of these out, you start to get a bit of visibility as to whether your original plan, are the costs actually coming on better, worse? And then you start to get a really strong feedback loop as to how each of your jobs and how each of your projects are going. So folding these out here, the house, you know, the house raised 33 grand is coming to 30. Well done. You've gained $3,000 extra profit. Amazing. And you can run all the way down your estimate and go where you're up, where you're down. And the final piece too is when the actual costs come in, you can start to get a bit of visibility on profit, and you can do a bit of root cause analysis there. The final piece is going, well, Jesus, if we are running over, how much more money have we got left to spend? Which is essentially this section down the bottom. You know, we haven't done the cleaning here. There's no actual zero. There's still some money yet to spend. So you start to get this really beautiful picture about going, what was our estimate? What are our actual costs versus the estimate? Where are we winning and losing? And then so that answers the profitability question. And then from a cash flow perspective, what else have we still got left to spend on this job overall? And again, there's heaps of videos on all this stuff, guys. Video guides, questionnaires, all the rest of it. But that's probably the high level overview as to how this works, Julian. I've got a couple more slides on the other slide, but did you want me to pull up stumps here or just?
No, if we jump into the job costing section, Dan, if that's okay, just so I can take people through on this, how it works. So basically just reiterating what I said before, but you know, actually going through it in terms of how it looks on Buildxact. So kind of what I mentioned before, guys, in terms of how we used to do things, you can see here that we provide I guess a budget on what you thought you were going to spend versus what you actually spend, and that shows green or red based on whatever that figure ends up as. The biggest problem with that was that it didn't really tell you what was yet to spend. So this gives you more information. Now, in an ideal world, you'd want to be breaking down your costs as much as possible in your estimating process. So for some people, that might be a change in terms of how you currently estimate. But the more lines you enter in, the more lines you can track against, the more lines you can track against, the more accurate your cost tracking and projections are going to be. So you get, the more you put in, you know, every stage, the more you're going to get out at the very end in terms of helping you make better business decisions and getting visibility. I'm a realist, though. I know some of you are going to challenge, that's going to be challenging to go from not doing that to completely doing that. If you're in that camp at the moment, all you're doing is just bulking, jumping in or dropping in invoices into a category and receiving it that way, and just saying, you know, I've got one line that has, you know, 20 grand or whatever on it, on that category, and I'm just putting in invoices as I get to them. I don't really want to do the whole cost tracking thing in detail. In the short term, I don't recommend you do this forever, but in terms of trying to get value out of this, just make sure that when you're receiving invoices in, you're doing it through attaching it to an individual line. So rather than just dropping it in at the bottom, drop it in on the line level. So the way you do that is you click into it, you do raise a PO, and you go in and you add it on that one. So what that will do is in Buildxact, we'll start seeing that you're effectively using that line spend rather than just adding new spend into your job. So when you're adding it against that, it's going to start appropriating those costs against that initial estimated budget. So it's not the ideal way of doing it. It's not the most, you're not going to get the most data out of doing it that way, but in terms of giving you some visibility to be able to use some of these job reports, then that's obviously going to help. And as Dan kind of was going through it there, and obviously keep in mind that Dan's an accountant, he lives and breathes this side of things. So for some people, that's going to be a bit of an overwhelming thing trying to look at all of that stuff. Just try and first get your head around that top section, which just gives you the really rolled up numbers to just understand, what your GP is and the plan and where the swell is on the project. And then just once you've got your head around that and how the process works, then slowly kind of digest the bits going down. That'd be my advice. But yeah, as Dan's kind of showing here, when you open up a category, you just want to be clicking into the line and going order item against that, and that will attach that to it. Yeah, it's not showing for my screen at the moment, but I've probably got that little zoom toolbar at the bottom, Dan. But for those of you who don't know that, there's an order button that pops up there. It might not be everyone that sees that. It's just me because I've got all the chat and the recording and everything in there. So that's basically kind of how that side of things works. Dan, do you want to finish off and then we'll jump into questions? Is that?
Yeah. Just two little final things. So this is probably getting a little bit more advanced, but I just wouldn't mind us just going a level deeper, explaining this screen versus the other screen I was on.
Yeah.
Because here, this estimate line item for building labor for this job is going to be exactly the same as on the dashboard. Now, in my world here, especially if you don't pop this open, you're looking at this and go, okay, I'm $4,000 over. Hopefully that's the bottom. Unless you pop this open, and again, I love the product, Julie, and all the rest of it. We're just obviously trying to refine and get better and better. In my world, I go, well, you aren't $4,000 over here. You still have these three items down the bottom you haven't even received an invoice for. So it could be a subcontractor or a contractor of a contractor, so you get to spend the invoice. In which case, in the other dashboard, I'm going, well, you still got $8,000 to spend here. You haven't received the invoice. This is actually going to get $8,000 worse, and you're going to tear up that profitability. So it starts to give you visibility as to what's left to spend by what category item, and then what's the profit doing here. Because if you're a builder and you have sort of 5, 6, 7, 10 of these on the go, to sort of jump in and pull this open, all the rest of it, like the data capture here is amazing, really amazing if you get it right. But unless you sort of jump into each of them and go, okay, does that look right? Jump into this. Where's that gone? What's happening? Jump in, jump out. The dashboard just tries to pull all that together and give you a bit of a concise view as to what's going on in your business.
Do you know what, Dan? How I feel about some of this stuff with numbers is kind of like how my wife and I manage finances, and I'll tell her, what are we spending this month, just so I know what's coming out. And I'm a bit more on the budget-y side than she is. And she'll say things like, oh, not much, or I'm not sure, or just a bit here and there, or something like that. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And I need that visibility on where we're going to end up, just so I can, plan my own spending and what we need to buy for the house and things like that. But yeah, when you don't know, you don't know. But having some sort of visibility on it is helpful. I don't think anyone here knows my wife, but if you do, no snitches, please. I just said that on a webinar.
Yeah, awesome. Just a final piece, and I just want to sort of hit you guys with like a fair bit of free content. All the rest of it is this is sort of, I guess, particularly in my sort of CFO world, how I like to see the data flowing into your systems. And commonly, a lot of you will have Xero or QuickBooks or MyOp, but the information should be exactly the same. So anything where you have trades, subbies, materials coming through, anything at all that sort of sits in your P&L. So your P&L should be like revenue, cost of goods sold, one minus the other is your GP, which is what we talked about before. And then you have overheads, and then GP minus overheads is your profit. Anything that's sort of sitting up in your cost of goods or cost of sales, it's an interchangeable name. Everything should be flushing through Buildxact. So hopefully you have a good purchase order process where you lock in prices and timing with trades and suppliers and all that. but everything should be pushing through Buildxact, and then it pushes through to zero, and then you do your accounts payable function there. Anything that's overheads like rent, telephones, anything like that as well, you probably should be using a project like, I guess, a program like Dex, which is a bit of a AI automation tool. So you send it an invoice, it reads it, it pushes it through to zero. Just to be absolutely clear too, we don't get any kickbacks or anything from Dex. I just love it just because you get so much time back from it. You send an invoice in, it reads it, shoves it to zero. But that's essentially how I like to see the information flow work. If you're getting trade invoices in and you're just pushing it straight to zero and you're not actually micro measuring your profit through Buildxact. So say you get a tiling invoice in there, Buildxact saying you got 10 grand to spend on it, but then your bookkeeper, whoever it is pushed it straight to zero. You as a builder are going to go, huh, I've got 15 jobs on the go. I can't remember whether that's right. There must be an invoice coming in. But then you start to get this divergence between what Buildxact's telling you and what your accounting system's telling you. So I just wanted to just do this little final flash pan saying this is how your information flow should work, especially around invoices from suppliers, trades, or anyone that sits up in cost of goods, and then the overheads piece. And that's, I think, about it. So just 2 QR codes here. On the left, we have heaps of content on our webpage. It's all free, WIP calculators, pricing profitability calculators, heaps there. So scan that one, guys, if you want. And then if you like anything I talked about as well, happy to sort of do a free session with me or, the advisory team. We can tell you a bit more about what we're about. Because if you haven't bumped into, I guess, a good commercial account before, which I don't think a lot of you have, we're a bit of a different breed. I haven't talked about tax once this session. Maybe talk to you about tax, I'll poke my eyes out, to be honest. I hate talking about it. But profit and margins and scale and growth and when should you bring on the next carpentry crew, that's my bit. But that's my end, Julian.
Awesome, mate. Dan, if you don't mind, just going back to the screen before. So I don't want to go into too much detail on this because it's not released and we haven't got, at least I haven't been told, full concrete plans on what exactly is going to happen. But I've mentioned it before, the two-way zero integration is coming. And I saw a question pop up there around Dex. So at the moment, if you use Dex, then that goes to zero. And at the moment, zero doesn't push that to Buildxact. That will change with the two-way zero integration. So someone also mentioned about MYOB. Dex works with MYOB, right? Still, Dan?
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. So yeah, what will eventually happen is you won't need to enter these into Buildxact. It will go into zero, and then you can have zero pushing it to Buildxact. So it just speeds up the automation side of it. Catherine, I can just see your question there. I think they're planning on having something ready very, very soon. I don't know what, and this is the hard thing because like we've got with this cost tracking dashboard is things will be done in stages. So you'll get the first iteration, second iteration, third iteration. So there might not be everything in the first go and second go and stuff. So once that kind of gets worked out and we see where we're at with it, then we'll know. But I know they're actually working on it right now. So yeah, you might see something before the end of the year. I'm not sure, as a very loose or maybe even some back end stuff before the end of the year. And then I don't know. It's a gut feeling that I would imagine you'll probably have something by February or March. That'd be my gut feeling. But yeah, because I know it's a priority to get it done. But again, it's one of those things we wanted to have this feature out 2 or 3 months ago, and it wasn't ready. And there's just sometimes when you develop, there's just little issues that crop up, things that you don't realize, and it kind of sets you back a little bit. So yeah, hopefully we'll have it as soon as possible. But let's just go through some of these. I'll go through the Q&A ones first. It was zero talk back to Buildxact. So Rory, yeah, we mentioned that's the two-way zero integration is coming. Pete, for when it'll be live in New Zealand, I'm not sure. They're just working on the content for it. But I think it's very soon. Let me just go into the chat.
Yeah, just on your message, Kat. Yeah, the two-way automation. I mean, just nerding out here a little bit is an absolute cracker. Yeah, there's so many wins. Yeah, so pretty excited to see that one roll out, Julian. I'm pretty excited by that.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna because what we've got at the moment is we have automation, and then we kind of take some of the automation away from using zero because you have to enter the stuff manually into Buildxact. So once that kicks in, that's gonna really help people. Guys, I'm going to go. I'm really sorry because I've probably missed some questions. So I'm going to go from the top and I'm just going to work my way down to make sure I haven't missed anyone off. So Tim mentioned earlier on within each job screen about whether you can have this report. I don't know. I don't know what the initial design ideas were for it, but my gut feeling is that there's probably quite a lot of information to put in a job screen. I would imagine that's probably why it's on its separate report and a dashboard to make it easily accessible. That's not to say that we couldn't add a column or something in the future of, is there a column in that job costing screen that you really want to see? What is that? All that kind of stuff. Definitely reach out to us for your feedback. And then obviously this is only the first iteration. So let's just quickly zip in.
Yeah, I'm happy to run as well. Yeah. No, great questions, guys.
So yeah, I mentioned before. So Ryan, I responded to Ryan on there. Yes, it's a Buildxact feature. There's no additional cost or anything for it. We try and work with the best people we can in this space. So you'll see we do a lot of with coaches or with people like Biz Video from a marketing standpoint, Xact accounting from from working out your profit and your accounting and CFO. So we always try and get as much expertise as we can for this. So Xact accounting actually helped us build this. So yeah, it's just great to have someone on like Dan talking about this from his world rather than just a Buildxact person talking about how great Buildxact is and how great this feature is. It's actually come from them in terms of helping develop it as well. So
it's rolled out to NZ, isn't it, Julian? It should be in NZ. Is it rolled out in NZ?
It's not rolled out yet.
All right.
But it will be.
All right, watch this space, Claire. It should be imminent. It's ready to go.
Yeah. Can you do a print report of the costs by category section? So you can do it from the actual costing screen. I'm not sure, Dan, if you can do it from the. Can you print from the report page?
Yeah, that is a good question. Let me just bring it up.
You can export the top page. Can you do the? I don't think you can at this point in time.
Yeah, there is an export section. Let me just close that.
Yeah, but not in the drill down option.
No, it's a good idea. Yeah, it's a really good idea. I mean, it'll definitely be in a future version. It just makes sense because you can print this section up here.
Yeah, we print pretty much every screen in Buildxact. You can print and export. So I think Emma's question was already answered around how you calculate. My slider keeps on jumping down to the bottom again. It wants me to
same.
Wants me to answer the bottom questions. So Peter, we mentioned about how you need to input the data. So you need to use POs and work orders to be able to tie those back into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really important. Tanya, the drill down capability, that's the very bottom section. We can sort of expand or pop out down the bottom. Yeah. So again, just a refresher, the top section is overall business, middle section is sort of detailed cash flow, and then the final piece is the micro level, which is where you should be having team huddles with you, I guess, your internal team members going, what is going on and how do we fall back?
So Kat was talking about, so I think she's saying that she's finished spending the amount, but it's showing the original spend amount. So how do I, so maybe in the future, Dan, there's something in there that we can close a line off or something to say it's all done.
Yeah, there's a really important piece in there for it to do that micro P&L transaction, because you have to enter the invoice in and then mark it as fully received. If it's only part received, it's well, from my point of view, I don't know where the bottom is, so I actually won't calculate for you. So when you mark it as fully received, it's done. If you have like a dummy line in there or like a contingency, and you want to recognize that because the bathroom's done, you had a contingency line in there, and you want to flush it out, I probably just put something in there at 0.01 cents and go complete. And then that will close off that line, and then that will trigger that dashboard on the front end to go, yeah, let's bank that margin.
Yeah, if you received if you did a PO against that line and marked that as received, would that close the line off?
It would, yes, yeah, and just make it a cent, guys. But we'll obviously reiterate that as time goes on. But yeah, really good questions, actually.
Yeah. So if you guys have any support issues about what might be affecting the figures, best to do is to reach out to the support team. Can you have a company level performance summary across all projects? Does that show across all projects, Dan?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So up in that very, very top section, there's actually a down drop. You can sort of select the individual items that are in there, and it will actually tell you what is happening. So it will give you all projects, some projects, and it does give you that sort of GP performance overall.
Awesome. Could we have a cash flow forecast from this report over all projects? I'm not sure if the cash flow one shows.
All right.
I don't think it shows at this point, but yeah, good feedback, Micah. Definitely get that through to the team, either through the support channel or through the Facebook page. If you guys haven't joined that Facebook page, please go ahead and do that. Loads of builders answer each other's questions on there. So the Buildxact building block, there's about 1,500 people on there at the moment, I think, from memory.
Yeah, and I lurk on that page too. So if I see anything specific, I'll obviously jump in and reach out. But yeah, again, guys, you have my details. Reach out to any questions as well. A colleague of mine is lurking in the background too, Julie, and he's just sending through a couple of like high pressure ones too. So is there a way to track target gross profit that is different to the contract gross profit value? So your target costs are lower than your contracted costs. That's a really good question, Steve. My answer to that is, if you have an estimate that's in there, it should all be your raw costs. So if you guys, so what I commonly see is that builders will run an estimate, and then when they present the contract in front of a client, they might game it a little bit, reduce their margin, fluff up costs, so it looks like the margin's small, all the rest of it. If you're talking about financial clarity, hitting numbers and all the rest of it, I just think that's a bit of a waste of time when you're trying to measure profit, not how you present to the client. You should have your raw costs in there and know exactly how you're performing and know exactly what GP you're trying to get out of it, to be absolutely honest. So short answer is no, Steve, but I mean, ideally, if you're building up these quotes, you want it to be as accurate as possible. Do we need to change the way we import data into Buildxact? So this is from Peter, as in POs and work orders for this to work, or will it be shown in a later webinar? So sorry, Julian, I'll just roll on with this. So that's all right. So Peter, really good question. I'm actually having a catch up with, and I guess Julie and a couple of other leaders in there to probably release a video embedded in there, which tells you over probably about half an hour how to use a program effectively. But there are a couple of already, I guess, Buildxact help videos available that everyone can get access to. And I think the video is called something like entering invoices into Buildxact. So maybe when we release this video, Julian, it's probably worthwhile maybe attaching that video there as a bit of a hygiene. But I think it goes for about 20 minutes. Yeah, but maybe we'll flush that out as well. But on the help video section, it's how to enter an invoice into Buildxact or words to that effect. So there's already a help video out there on that.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I think a lot of the questions we've got in there are around that, how to zero out the yet to spend.
Yeah.
I think having, I need to probably look into more into that, but having a way to actually tick it off would probably be helpful.
Yeah. A couple of good questions from Peter. So this dashboard will start to get a little bit clunky too with cost plus projects. Just obviously because you have a cost at a margin center of the client, you do that sort of every couple of weeks or months or whatever it happens to be. So this dashboard works really well with, I guess, fixed costs, fixed revenue, plus variations obviously floating in and out. Peter, just your question around, you have 7 progress payments per new house projects. I mean, as long as you sort of rack them up on the invoice side to the client, you will have visibility on that because you can create the drafts and then flick into an invoice, send them out. So we'll give you that cash flow as well. So that shouldn't be a problem. So it will affect the numbers, but in a good way. And then also Deputy too. So as long as you're entering work orders through Deputy as well, I mean, the dashboard will pick that up because we'll drop it in as an actual in there. It'll go receive and we'll flow through to the dashboard section. So you should pick up the labor, I guess, the labor portion in the dashboard as well.
There's great one here by, doesn't show me the full name, but in-house, I think. So can you come back after winning a job and then add more lines to the estimate and splitting the cost? So, I mean, if the customer has signed the contract and it's a contract signed estimate, you probably don't want to be going in and changing anything in the contract. But I mean, technically you can go in and make the job. If you've accepted the job and it's a job, you can go back and make it pending, and you can, or draft, and you can go in and make changes to it. Just obviously bear in mind that you probably want to be sending that contract, out again. The way normally you'd probably be doing it is just by adding variations into the project.
So, Melissa, a bit of a shameless plug here. Just scan this QR if you want a bit of a one-on-one with me or the team, but you'll get me. Or, Xact accounting. I got LinkedIn, all sorts of other stuff.
Sorry, Kat, the Facebook group name is Buildxact. The Buildxact building block. There's about 1,500 people on there from memory last time I checked. But yeah, it's really good. There's a lot of posts going in there. It's how we a lot of the time reach out to our audience for things like feedbacks and surveys, and the product managers will sometimes ask to have like chats of people and to kind of go through kind of what matters to you and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really good place to engage with other Buildxact users. Sometimes it's really good just to find different ways of doing things. Like I see some of the people post like, how do I do this? And people will say, oh, you do it this way. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think you could use a little loophole to get around something. So definitely join if you have Facebook.
Yeah, I'm loving the questions. These are great, actually. I'm trying to answer a few as I go. So I have dropped in a couple of links into the main chat, guys, around, I guess the Buildxact main page, a couple of YouTube videos to watch to get the most out of this. I'll release this QR code section now. If you want me to bring it up again, guys, let us know. If not, I'm on LinkedIn and all that.
Yeah. So Sandra, I'm not sure what the question, it might be in a first question initially, but so it doesn't integrate to Xero, do a work order instead. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So if you don't want anything to push to Xero, work orders. So work orders are anything internal as a cost. So your own labor, if you're hiring out machinery that you own on the project, all of those kind of things are work orders. Anything external where you have a PO for it effectively and an invoice, that's a PO. So that will go out to, we'll create a sync to go to Xero. Yeah.
There's probably a question there for you, Julian. Will there be a two-way sync to MyOp?
There is, yeah. It will be happening. I think Xero's first, then QuickBooks, because obviously QuickBooks American. We're obviously in the North American market, so I believe Xero is first. I believe QBO is second. Whether QBO is QBO in Australia or just QBO in QuickBooks in North America, I'm not sure. But the plan is to definitely do MYOB as well. I used to work for MYOB, so I always like seeing us integrate with MYOB as well.
Yes. I think they're all the big ones. Does Dex push to MyOb? I couldn't tell you that one off the top of my head. Sorry, Melissa.
I believe it does, mate.
Okay, cool.
It did when I was at MYOB, and it was Receipt Bank in those days. So I assume nothing's changed.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I'm just trying to make sure we've covered everything.
Yeah, just the final one for you, Peter, too. So your question says, the accuracy of the percentage complete on task is vital for this to work and give us projected profit. Yeah, well, the short answer is yes. So with that percentage completion to the far right-hand side, it's done on the cost base. So say, for example, you've got $500,000 of estimated cost, 500 comes in, well, it's 100% complete. So it doesn't use it based off the scheduling method that's in Buildxact. But if you have a $500,000 cost of a job and it's coming at $1 million in cost, say, round numbers, it's going to show 200% completion. So this is all around protecting that profit and going, well, how much cost is left to go on this project overall? Right.
So Sheena, POs will show in your actuals when you drill into the line. So when you create a PO on that line, there'll be a PO column and it'll have a little tick on it. You can drill down and see the purchase orders, and you can also see the purchase orders in the purchase order screen. When you start receiving invoices related to that purchase order, that's when it will tack it on to the end, and you'll see like red or green from that.
Yeah, excellent.
So Gab, if you enter a PO not attached to a specific line, can you go back and move it to make your tracking more accurate? I don't know if I've ever actually been asked that before.
Oh, so it might be like a miskey or something. I think there is an option there where you can cancel it. So you can cancel and re-enter or adjust it. Or the other way to gamify it as well is that if you have like a $2,000 material invoice, not against an estimate, so it's going to show as an overrun of profit, you can enter a $2,000 credit to offset it, so it nets out a zero in there. That's a clunkier solution, but that'll work as well.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I think you'd need to probably delete it and go back in
Yeah.
because you need to raise the PO from that specific line.
Mm. Yeah, because the philosophy is that each of those little transactions, it is a little micro profit and loss statement. Here's all the estimates of the budgets, and then here's all the actuals, and I want to know line by line as to what's over and under line by line. Because if you start flying invoices everywhere, that gets messier for you, messier for me, messier for your other stakeholders. So we're actually trying to do two things. One is reward those people that spend the time entering good data, and the second one is to offer a carrot to those that don't and go, well, you can have financial clarity with this tool. And the beautiful part is that a lot of you will be already 90% there. You've done the hard work getting the client and building the estimate and using the software. It's just the last little 10% to bring it together. And you hopefully everyone on here has seen a lot of value from it. There is a lot of clarity and value from this product. Well, personally, I think anyway, if I was in your space, you've already done 90% of the effort. It's just the last little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously just keep in mind that this is the first iteration as well.
Hmm.
And Melissa, you mentioned there, so yeah, if you want to change the PO, you cancel the receipt, change the PO to unsent, and then you can go back in and reassign it to a new category. That's obviously not reassigning it to a line though. That just is a category. So if you're trying to make use out of the new cost tracking features, you do want to be attaching those POs to a specific line so that we can compare what you thought you're going to spend, what you actually spend, what that impact has across the project.
Yeah, just two more things too, guys. If you are using this for the first time, and a lot of you guys will have bills that go from 6 to sometimes 2.5, 3 years. I probably wouldn't spend a lot of time looking in the rear vision mirror and trying to reallocate. I go right for the next big project we're landing, or if one's just started, I start building those disciplines in now because all those old projects, the ship's already sailed. In my world, I want to go, well, what's coming forwards in there too. The other piece as well is it's just the importance of purchase orders too. So you have a build, you send out your RFQs to your trades, they send back a quote, and then you should be issuing a PO against that trade straight away, locking in the price, the performance, the materials, the scope, the date you need them. There's some other really great hygiene practices that Buildxact give you a bit of a hand with, and then you should be rolling into your day to day as well.
Yeah, yeah. Clint, you can. I'm not sure if you're asking whether if you can delete a project or not. You can definitely delete a job. I'm not sure if you're saying you just want it to be removed from the data side of it. So where are the responses?
Yeah, there is a down drop in the top right hand corner, so you can sort of select a handful of jobs rather than getting a tremendous list. You just go tick 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 tick. Yeah, great questions.
Yeah, Rachel, actually, good point on the fact that Deputy creates a new line. Yeah, it does. I haven't thought about that one yet, but I'd imagine there'll be some form of fix that comes in for trying to move lines into a particular line if it comes in as a new line. How you track that against it. But I know at some point, and again, this is me really saying this. At some point, timesheets are probably going to come into Buildxact. So I don't know how long Deputy is going to be used for, but yeah, that might be 6 months. It could be a year. It could be 2 years away. I don't want to say for sure whether it's
Just quickly on your question too, Karen, with the yet to spend piece, just a reminder, you have to do the trigger as fully received. So let me just move some of these questions around the other way. So if you have it as, let's go to this one here. When you pop this out, if this is part received, it's going to show it as all as yet to spend. If you have fully received, that's when you'll bank any sort of gain between these two numbers. So you have to mark it as fully received, because that way the system goes, well, this item here has been done and dusted. Now we know where the bottom is, good, bad, or ugly in this section here.
And obviously then, Dan, if you're doing multiple lines off of one, if you're doing multiple POs off of one line, you would just probably raise them at the start and leave them as part received, right?
Yeah, correct. Exactly. Yes.
So just so you know where the bottom is, you just have part received in there. So you're not falsely saying it's received. If you're trying to do it in a more simple way, which some of you probably will be doing initially, that's probably how you get around doing it.
Yeah, if there is anything sort of clunky, guys, again, just go to that help page. I mean, obviously, Buildxact and us are running pretty tight at this, and we have a fair amount of vested interest in it. So just punch through those queries, and there will be probably a second webinar that comes out with best practice bookkeeping, data entry to support this dashboard as well. All right, just slowing down a bit, Julian, unless there's anything else.
Yeah, we might leave it there, guys, because I think we covered most of the questions. There is a whole heap in the Q&A that I might not have. So yeah, there'll be a recording up on YouTube, and it'll also be sent out to everyone via email. Yeah, there's a comment there about deputy. I think the cost plus job set up as 0. Will there be 2? Yeah, MYB at some point. Yeah, there's a few questions about deputy. Sorry, I didn't check I was looking mostly at the chat because I was trying to get ahead of the chat, and every time I was reading them, there's more kept on coming in. But yeah, I think that's, for the most part, that's kind of what we need there. Guys, obviously keep in mind, as I said, it's the first iteration. If you have any feedback, there's a bunch in that already, but please just let us know in the Facebook group. If you can join it, that'd be amazing. Or if you just want to shoot me an email, my email is juliank@buildxact.com. That'd be great. And obviously, if you want to reach out to Dan, you've got the QR codes that you can scan. And yeah, appreciate your time. Hopefully the new feature makes you guys really happy.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, thanks everyone for carving out a bit of time. Spread the word, and yeah, keep those margins under the microscope. Time to make a bit of money.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate your time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yeah, bye.